First on today's program, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Evan Kahn. Evan, I'm going to put the spotlight on you as well. Evan is a cellist born in the Los Angeles city limits, I suppose, in Culver City, and came here to San Francisco not too long ago. He and I met through our overlapping years at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Evan, welcome.
Thanks, Ian. Really, really great to be here.
Now,
Always.
normally, we would do a program where everyone would file into the packed concert hall, sitting side by side without a care in the world about pandemics or so on. And they would all have a little concert program in their hands that would tell them all of these wonderful details, biographical details about the artists. But as we have no programs in front of us, I would just like to ask you if you would please just introduce yourself. Give us your favorite, 5 sentence biography of your life and history with music, just so that we have a little perspective.
Sure, I can do that. Like Ian said, I'm from Culver City, California originally. I live in Piedmont, California now, in the East Bay near San Francisco. Um, I grew up from a musical family. My parents are here, in fact. Super cool. And my mother's an opera singer. My father's a jazz pianist. And I started cello at the age of 9 through public school, through a public elementary school program. Went to Carnegie Mellon University, overlapped 1 year with Emma Steele, who is also on the program tonight, and went and did my master's in chamber music at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Won a couple orchestra jobs in the area and decided to stay. And right now in the pandemic, am mostly teaching and performing online.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Evan. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Trinity Alps series this fall is doing an exploration of the 6 cello suites of Johann Sebastian Bach. Last week, we heard James Jaffe play the first cello suite, which is a wonderful piece. It's open and features that famous prelude. It's a sort of an uplifting and very generous piece of music. Today, we are exploring the second cello suite, which I've always thought is a very different piece. Not just different from the first suite, but it's kind of unique in the whole setting. Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Sure. It is one of the only, I would say, the only suite. So there are 6 cello suites by Johann Sebastian Bach. 2 of them are in minor keys. This one, the D minor suite, and the fifth one, which is in C minor. The fifth one has a more sort of extroverted feel to it, and there are a lot of sort of more redemptive moments. There are moments where the piece really goes into a major key and finds moments of hope and inspiration. This suite is mostly, almost entirely set in D minor and really doesn't stray from that core. It definitely explores some very, very interesting harmonies, as pieces in minor keys often do, more so than pieces in major keys. The second minuet, the second to last piece in the suite, the second to last movement in the suite, is in a major key, but that is sort of like a light in a very dark tunnel. This is very introspective. When I was first learning this piece, when I was first learning more of the suites in general, I assigned sort of like a a uh, a substance of sorts to each movement. Not each movement, each suite. The first suite being more like a river, like a flowing river. The fourth suite being more like an ocean. This suite for me was more like blood flow, like the heartbeat. Something very personal, something very internal, something very visceral.
That's wow. That is an incredible description. I wonder, we live right now in an era when some people, perhaps myself included, have kind of a hard time listening to sad music at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But even though this music of Bach has a lot of sadness and sort of melancholy, I don't think it's quite that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a sense of what we're listening for in this piece? It's not just a great tragedy, or is it? I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right. There's a sort of like character development that happens in this suite that I think is definitely individual to this suite. We start out with this sort of questioning, introspective, three-note motive in the beginning. Sort of like a "Who am I?" here at the beginning. Who am I? And I think throughout the piece, it sort of explores that idea. Who am I? Who am I as a person? And it goes to a lot of different places, and much more than sadness. You're absolutely right. It really, really explores the gamut of emotions, and feelings, and what we might identify ourselves as. And I think that's really lovely.
That's a wonderful introduction. Now, finally, before our performance begins, I wondered if you could just tell us the listing of the different movements of this suite, so that we have a little bit of a roadmap to follow as we listen.
Absolutely. So those first three notes that you just heard are in the prelude, which is sort of the opening act of a Bach cello suite. Then comes the Allemande and Courante, which are sort of paired movements here. The Allemande having a sort of stately opening and evolving into more of into more complex themes, and the Courante being a running dance, more agitated and excited. The Sarabande comes next, the slow lilting dance movement, and after that come the two minuets, where I play the first minuet and then play the second minuet, and then it repeats back to the first minuet. So you hear the first minuet twice. And then finally, the gigue, the last movement, is a fiery dance movement in 3/8 time, this sort of very lively, jaunty movement to wrap it up.
Wonderful. I'm going to remind our audience that after the performance of all 6 movements, I would like to encourage you all to unmute yourselves and share a little bit of applause. But I think what we'll do, Evan, is we'll let you play through all 6 movements so we get the entire perspective before any interruptions. If anyone wants a little bit of a reminder of this roadmap, I have typed out the movements in the chat. Personally, Evan, I am very much looking forward to this. Have fun. I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bravo. Wow, Evan, that was wonderful. I have to say, I think I was prepared for the the emotional difficulties go into that, but I'm just amazed by the technical difficulties that I see you challenging or challenged with in that piece. By the way, I muted you along with everyone else. But I just wanted to point out that that was just not just a moving performance. It was not just an impressive performance. It was all of that wrapped together.
Oh,
Bravo.
great. Thanks. That means so much.
Did anything occur to you during the performance that you wished you'd shared with us earlier?
Um, that this was actually my first time playing through a Bach suite in four people. Um, in a long time. Over the course of the pandemic, we've all been playing a lot of solo repertoire, but I've been doing mostly newer things, trying to learn new repertoire, and presenting that. And so I myself wasn't prepared for the emotionality of playing through this piece for people,
Hmm.
and how not just how much I've missed that, but how individual a feeling that is. Um, yeah.
Well, bravo, and thank you very much. Now, let's see. Next on the program, as Evan probably, well, I would say under normal circumstances, I would say Evan goes and pours himself a drink, but it's not even noon here, so I don't know if that's what your Sunday is going to look like, Evan. But next on today's program, it is my pleasure to introduce you to two of my colleagues in coming to us live from Copenhagen in Denmark. One of them I know quite well, and we've played together many times. The other one I met for the first time today. Um, Emma Steele and Hulda Jónsdóttir, except I may need some correcting on saying your name correctly, Hulda. Go ahead, and Emma, you're welcome to unmute yourself. And
Yes.
hello.
Hello.
How are things in Denmark right now, aside from dark outside?
Yeah, it's not super dark yet. That's more like December, January. Then it gets dark at 4 p.m. But it's getting there. It's all right. We actually went yesterday to this famous deer park that they have here, where there's like it's like the old royal hunting grounds, which is just like now like with herds of deer running around in the fields and like very beautiful sunny weather. So that was really nice to
Oh,
attend.
nice. Now,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you if you do the same thing that Evan did and introduce yourselves. Like I said, audiences are used to being a little bit prepared by having a printed program, but we don't have those today. So, do you mind filling us in a little bit on your life and history as a musician, each of you?
Yeah. Okay, so I got my job here in Copenhagen in 2013, and we're both playing in the opera orchestra here. And yeah, so I've been here ever since then. I went to school with Evan at Carnegie Mellon, and I'm from Chicago originally, so that's going backwards in time. And then yeah, and we met. I've been to San Francisco a bunch of times now. I think our first concert together was the half jazz, half classical program with Mess Talling. And then I came to Trinity Alps Festival, which was amazing. And yeah, now I'm just playing lots of operas and ballets here.
And Emma also came to San Francisco as part of the Klein violin competition, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got second place, and yeah, that was really amazing. That feels like so long ago now. So yeah, it's weird how time passes so quickly.
Well, I have to say that I'm so impressed by the Klein competition because as you said, you placed second place. I'm sure you got I'm sure there were rewards in many ways to that. But I'm just impressed by the competition because they've really kept track of you and. Several times when you've come back to the Bay Area, they have,
Yeah,
have supported you and helped you do programs, including some of the programs I was involved in. So
exactly. That's
I think,
actually how it came from the Klein competition connection originally, and then I just love coming back to San Francisco. So yeah.
Yes. Isn't California wonderful? Well, I look forward to visiting you sometime in Copenhagen. But would you please introduce us to your friend sitting next to you as well?
Jónsdóttir.
Yes, if you
that
want.
closer?
Yeah, it's close.
Okay.
If you want like the complete correct pronunciation, it's Hulda Jónsdóttir. But that's I understand if it takes a couple days to practice.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. I'm sorry.
No worries. I am originally from Iceland, which explains this impronounceable name. And I started playing violin there when I was 4. And I grew up in Iceland and a bit partially in Minnesota, actually. And then I went to college in New York. I went to Juilliard. And I did my undergrad and my master's there, finished in 2015. And even though I have spent 7 years of my life living in the United States, I still haven't made it to California or the West Coast. So I'm hoping to make it out there once we all can travel again. But after graduation, I lived in Germany for a few years. Then about 2.5 years ago, I won my job here in Copenhagen, where I play with Emma. So that's why I'm here today.
Wonderful. Now, speaking of your job, as you're both violinists at the Royal Danish Opera with their orchestra, for those of us in the United States, most of the arts has been more or less completely shut down for live events. Can you tell us what it's like playing music in Denmark at the moment? What is reopening? What is possible? What does your future look like?
It's more or less back to normal with audience restrictions.
Yeah.
We're only allowed to have 500 people in the room, and that's including orchestra, chorus, singers, and audience, and some stage technicians that have to go into the space that's considered the stage.
And 3 feet distance for every audience person, and 6 feet distance for every wind player. Yeah.
Wow, but you're producing operas and ballets.
Yeah.
For
We get
live
to at least play
performances.
something
Yeah.
and start to do.
That's amazing. And then I remember, Emma, you telling me that because of the restrictions, they only have at most 20 or 25% of the normal audience that you would expect. So I've heard that because of this, every concert sells out immediately.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, even the smaller church concerts and stuff are also just any event is selling out because people are so hungry to go to something, any type of event again. So I'm sure that's around the world, people feel the same.
I think we can all identify with that. I think we're all hungry to go back to some semblance of public life again. However, in the meanwhile, for many of us, this is what we have. And, it gives us this kind of unexpected benefit of being able to have a live conversation and music with someone on the other side of the world. So would you, I know that you have two pieces of music prepared for today's program. Let's start with the first one. What are you going to share with us first?
Okay. Well, we actually wanted to split it up because we have 2 composers, Max Reger and Chevalier Saint-Geor. Max Reger is what we were going to start with. He was a German composer around the early 1900s, a sort of similar time and style as Hindemith, who may be a more familiar composer, but he wrote these amazing duos for 2 violins in the old style, is the nickname of it, which is actually totally fitting with what we just heard with Bach, because it's definitely in that inspired by that. But then maybe I thought we'd do one duo of Reger and then mix up and do the Chevalier Saint-Geor and then finish with the other duo of Reger.
Wonderful. Now, this music by Max Reger, when I think of his music, I think of, the early 20th century when so many composers were experimenting with modernism. There was in Vienna, there was Schoenberg and Webern and Berg. Coming from Russia, there was, music like Stravinsky's. France had already been developing, from the late 1800s with music of Debussy and Ravel. So I think of Reger as having an interesting place in all of this modernism that's coming through. But the piece that you chose has a very classical sound to it. So it really is kind of amazing the way that it harkens back to this old style. Now, we were talking a little beforehand about how these pieces are called canons and fugues. Do you mind just demonstrating a little bit about what that means and how we can hear that part of the music?
Yes.
Remove the.
Yes. We'll get our violins.
So, just for our listeners who don't have all of the music school experience as Hulda and Emma, a canon is generally a piece of music where you have a single melody that is played in different voices. And the single melody, normally you would expect them to just play together, but in a canon, they play it at different times. So, same music, different times. Do you mind just demonstrating how that happens, Emma?
Yeah, okay, so the first movement of what we're gonna play, it's yeah, we'll just play the theme together that everything after that is based on. So let's see how that goes. Yeah. So it starts out like that, very simple. And then actually what's extra special about this particular first movement that we start with is that the entire violin line is identical the entire way through the piece. And later the other movements have a little more variation, but it's identical but at different times. So it's actually a compositional work of genius, because I don't know of any other composer who has managed to make one melody that also accompanies itself. It's pretty ingenious.
So what happens when you play that same melody but spaced out at different times? Can we just hear a little bit of that? Wow. So, okay, that is quite easy to hear. But you're saying that not only at the beginning does this happen, but that continues all the way through the piece?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so you keep track. Hulda plays first, and I'll just play 2 bars after her exactly what she plays.
All right. So this piece by Max Reger, it's a canon and then a fugue. Is the fugue basically the same idea?
Yeah, so then the theme of the fugue, do you want to play that?
Sure. It's
And that is the theme that we develop on. That's not identical the whole way through. That has more variations written into it. But
I understand. Thank you. This is a great introduction, and I think that my ears should be able to track it now. I wish I had two brains so I could listen equally to all of it, but I'll do what I can. Thank you, and good luck.
thank you.
Ready?
Bravo. Yeah, take a bow. Yeah. Oh, nice. Um, I can see what you mean. How that music does fit very nicely with the music of Bach. You know, the way that it's so imitative and the way that it has that kind of Baroque like dance feeling. I think that is a very nice nice pairing with the music of Bach. Now, the next work on the program is by a French gentleman by the name of Chevalier Saint-Georges. Although I confess that I did not realize that that is not actually his name, that is his title. Chevalier Saint-Georges was born as Joseph Boulogne, and he was born to a mixed race parents, pair of parents, and this is in the sort of mid 1700s. So think the years of Mozart and Haydn in France, the years of the French Revolution, a very dramatic time to be in France. I just read earlier today that Chevalier Saint George means a knight of Saint George. Joseph Boulogne, the composer you're about to hear, joined a regiment of the French army that was known as the Knights of Saint George. It was entirely made up of men of color from France, and this is in the 1790s. It was, I think, one of the Louis the XVI wars. I can never keep the French wars straight in my head. But I thought that was just extraordinary. You know, that's a part of history that I don't think a lot of us have thought much about, is the role of people in color in 18th century Europe, especially sort of post-revolutionary France. So Joseph Boulogne was apparently just an incredible person, a kind of a Renaissance man, and was a virtuoso at the violin and composed quite a bit of music. So what do you have? Sorry, I kept going a little too long. Emma, what do you have to offer to us by this incredible composer?
No, it's good.
Okay. Yeah, so this is from a set of 6 sonatas for 2 violins that he wrote. And a cool fact about him, well, yeah, that I just learned also today was, okay, so he has the reputation for being the Black Mozart, kind of. That's a nickname that some people gave him. And actually, he lived in the same time he knew Mozart, and turns out they were actually even roommates for 2 months. So, yeah, and I think he knew Haydn as well, and yeah, he was totally in the Marie Antoinette came to see a few of his concerts, so he was definitely in the biggest music scene at the time. Yeah.
So how would you characterize this music that you're going to play, this duo?
Very classical, no?
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely hear a Mozartian style, I would say.
It's like very clear, strict sonata form.
Mm-hmm.
And theme and variations.
Yeah, so first movement is sonata form, where it starts out with a theme and then that comes back at the end. And then the second movement, which is the last movement, is aria and variations.
All right, so this is a 2-movement duo, sort of in the structure of a classical sonata. I love examples like this. I really wonder. I really wish I had a time machine. I could go back and be a fly on the wall. Hear perhaps the composer and Mozart in the same room discussing music like this. Anyway, for now, we'll have to imagine that. I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Yeah, I'll just tune it.
Oh, bravo. Bravo.
Only get one.
Yeah, and they eat what you eat. There's no.
That's nice. Even a coordinated bow. Wonderful.
Shall we play one more Reger duo to finish off?
Please do.
Is that one?
Yes. Just do one movement at a time.
Sure.
Now I saw that these duos by Max Reger, I think they are all called canons and fugues. Is that true? So
Yes.
does that mean that we can expect the same kind of treatment of a theme that is being played by both
Exactly.
violins, but at different times?
Exactly. It's the same format. This one is maybe a little more whimsical and complex in how he puts it together. But it's the first movement is us playing after each other, and then the second movement is a fugue. So.
Okay, wonderful. I would just like to remind our audience that after this final piece on the program, we are going to stick around and have a little bit of live time for questions and answers with all of you. So if anything has come up in your mind during the program, if you have any questions for any of us, keep that in mind, and you'll have a chance to ask us after this. Okay, ladies, I'll turn it over to you. Toi toi.
Good on it.
Yay, encore.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing these pieces with us. Two pieces that I had never heard before by composers I admit that I'm not that familiar with. So it's very nice for me to be always sort of learning and expanding my knowledge. I think many people would agree with me. I have to admit, the idea of chamber music for two violins is, there's not that much. I don't think there's that much music to begin with, right? There's only a handful of examples that I can think of. So this was really a treat. Now, as I said, we have a little moment where we can do some questions with our audience. I'm going to look at the gallery here. I think perhaps a way to do this is we could be very democratic, like nice school children. If anybody has something they would like to add, you can simply raise your hand if your video is on, and I'll do my best to see you. Let's see. I see Craig and Mary. Do you have something to share?
Well, it was just wonderful to see Emma again, and I can't wait for her to come back to San Francisco. So thank you very much to both of you.
I feel the same way, Emma. I can't wait for you guys to come back to California. I don't know. Emma had plans to come to be at the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival this summer. Also, she and I were going to start to be a part of a kind of a pilot program for a new festival or concert series on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of Southern California. That was another casualty of this summer's pandemic cancellations. So, Emma, we really missed out on a lot of fun, but I'm so glad that you could join us for this and sort of keep our American ears, satiated with some music. I'm also have to say, I'm just very glad that you all are returning to work and returning to some semblance of life as usual. I can't help but feeling a bit envious there.
It's coming back slowly.
Let's see. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share or questions for us about our, about the musical programs? Or I see Diane Kahn. Diane, down in Los Angeles, I expect.
Okay, this is a really ridiculous question, but I'm looking at Emma's digs. And just wondering now, for musicians, that's a very nice place with all the nice Danish modern furniture. And musicians where we are have to live in hovels because of the real estate. Now, so I'm just wondering, how is it for musicians up there in terms of real estate? Is it super expensive? This has nothing to do with the music, but I am really kind of interested in that. How is it for you in terms of living expenses living in Copenhagen?
Yeah. Well, just for some perspective, I hope everyone realizes that Diane herself is a wonderful musician, an opera singer, a vocal teacher. So she does have a little bit of perspective on this. Emma, how about those digs that you're in Copenhagen?
This is actually my friend's apartment, not my apartment, but yeah. No, I mean, they do make it's easier to find a place than San Francisco. I think that's one of the hardest cities to find.
It's the rental economy more than a
but Denmark's the most expensive place to live in the world up over there.
It's expensive, but they make it easier to buy. It's actually more expensive to rent. They give a lot of incentives for people to buy earlier. So like the mortgage rate is super low. So like, but I mean, it's still smaller. I don't know. You're looking for a place now.
Yeah, but I think it's hard everywhere, but I have a feeling it's a little more reasonable here, and they do try to help you.
Yeah.
More. Like there's more of an incentive to help first-time buyers.
Yeah. But I mean, like my place is a 1-bedroom basically, so it's like you get smaller, but it's easier than New York and San Francisco for sure.
Yeah, and Denmark also has these co-op systems where you can actually buy yourself into like a co-op with sometimes hundreds of apartments actually.
Yeah, this is a co-op that my friend owns. Yeah, or like is in a co-op.
Yeah.
So
and then it's a little bit of a worse investment for the future because it's not attached to the housing market itself. It's just the worth of the apartment kind of remains very stable, but it's a good investment in a way.
Yeah.
If you can
I also wanted to just point out that I think probably you have a bit more job stability because the Royal Danish Opera is benefiting from more financial support from the state, than many companies here, artistic organizations. I mean, for example, Evan had to leave us not too long ago. But Evan is a member of at least four Bay Area organizations, including the San Jose Opera. And they are not only have they not reopened, but they are not entirely sure, most mid-size organizations, if they're still going to exist, in another year or so. So yeah, I have to say I feel really good about you two. The rest of us, I see Sigrid has a question. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for that. Sigrid,
not a question, but just a shout out to technology, that it's possible for us to zoom in to the comfort of your home, and you bring the healing power of music to us in the comfort of our homes. And it's so important, more now than ever before. And I'm very pleased with your performance. It was fabulous.
Thank you, Sigrid. Yeah, I have to agree. I think, even if we had bought the best seats that money could buy at the Danish Opera House, I don't think we would be this close to your violins, as we are now. So of course it's not the same. Of course we can't wait to go back. But I like finding silver linings where they can be found. Let's see. I'll scan the audience for anyone else. Also, if you don't wish to appear on the video or talk, you can also type something into the chat box. I see we've had several chats along the lines of bravo and so on. I see we have someone in our audience who is a feline member of our audience. This little cat has been enjoying the program here. That's another one of the silver linings of doing concerts on Zoom, is everyone can bring their pets. My cat has not yet made an appearance. I don't know where they are. You probably think it's lunchtime or something. Well, let's see. I don't see anyone else. Does anyone have any final thoughts for our artists before we wrap up today's program? Jane Belden, I see you. Jane Belden, are you there? You're going to have to unmute yourself, Jane. Oh, there you go.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you so much. This is wonderful, and to be able to see everybody from all over the world, as well as in wherever, and as the other lady said, in our living rooms, our den, as I'm in my den. Anyway, thank you so much, and I'm just so glad that you were able to perform out of the theater here in Weaverville on one of your broadcasts. And anyway.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. Diane, I see you've got something else for us. You'll have to unmute yourself again, Diane.
All right. Hi, Emma. I saw you actually, and this is so amazing, when you had won the concerto competition at Carnegie Mellon and played at Carnegie Hall.
Oh.
And I remember, Evan said, do you remember Emma? She was this violinist, and I said, oh yeah, she was this beautiful, tall, fair, and she was wearing a light blue dress, right? Am I right? Yeah. I remember the whole thing. And so I saw you at Carnegie Hall, and my husband and I both said, she's going to go places. And then here I get to see you again. So it's like, it's really fabulous. And I also want to say I'm really glad that you're doing all the Bach suites, because every time I hear the Bach suites, I hear another level of depth. And what's also wonderful about them is there's so much room for interpretation. People perform them so differently. And I really love that about it. So yeah, that was special.
Absolutely. I think we could almost just, after doing all 6 Bach suites, we could just start over and have the musicians switch music and play different pieces. We could just keep going. It's in fact, I've already had several requests from from some colleagues who play the violin. They said, well, you're doing all the cello suites. Next, are you going to do the solo violin sonatas and partitas? And I said, okay, well, let's get the calendars out. I think January we could start with a new program, you know. So, I mean, this has been a real joy. That leads me to my final points about this series and this Trinity Alps series on Zoom. You know, we are going to continue to offer these Zoom concerts as sort of free and open events to the public. As you all know, you only had to go and register online. We don't charge ticket prices, but we do ask that everyone consider making a contribution to support this program. We have been doing our concerts this way since we started as an organization in 2011. The idea that concerts should be, or the idea that audiences should feel free to choose their own level of ticket price, I always found very appealing, because my goal as an artist is just to really to share this music and to bring it to life for all different people, regardless of their experience with classical music, regardless of their economic situation. I want it to be available. So I just ask that you consider what this means to you. If you haven't done so yet, please go to the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival website, make a contribution. I think I've made it fairly easy to do so. If you'd like, you can also make a tax-deductible charitable contribution. The end of the year is coming up. If you're thinking about, you know, how your charitable contributions are spread, that's something that you can do as well. Instructions to do that are also on the website. I also wanted to say a quick word about our next program. Our next program will not be next weekend. It will be on Sunday, November 1st. So next weekend, we will have just a bit of a break while I take care of some of my own projects I'm working on. But we will return with a program on Sunday, November 1st. Again, it will be at 11 a.m. And it again will feature live performances from one of my colleagues who lives in Frankfurt, Germany. So again, we will have the European time zone represented. We will be enjoying music by tenor Samuel Levine. Sam has sung with many operas, including the Santa Fe Opera, including Philadelphia, and now including the Frankfurt Opera. He will be doing opera arias by Handel, so a little bit of Baroque sort of elegance. And he will also be doing great romantic arias by Wagner, from Wagner's opera Das Rheingold, the first in the series of the Ring cycle. Also an opera from Boris Godunov, so a little bit of the Russian in there as well. I will also be contributing a little bit of piano music to the program. I haven't quite decided on what to do yet. I have to balance this program that Sam has created of Handel and Wagner, you know, being all over the place. So I hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks' time. I hope that you'll consider keeping in touch using the Trinity Alps website. And with that, I would like to invite you to give our musicians a final round of applause, and that'll be the end of today's program. So thank you again, Emma and Hulda, for joining us. Thank you to Evan, wherever you may be. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Stay healthy, everyone, and stay happy. I'll see you next time. Bye.